go get my meds? Come on. Coraline. Right here. She's wondering what I want from her. Go get my meds. Right there. Right there. Yes. Thank you. You're a good girl. Alright. Now come up here. Come up here and join us. Alright, so I am brand new to this, I guess, vlogging thing. Okay, Corey. Down. But my name, I go by Kenzie. And this is Coraline, my service dog. He's trying to get the treats in the middle of my leg. And behind me is Diesel. We're not really sure what Diesel is. Diesel's just Diesel. But he does know sometimes, because he's a good boy. So, I just had Cora bring me my meds, which is little packs. Because I'm having a rough day. I've been having a rough day. Which is why I'm just now doing this. You don't want this. So if you can't hear me right now, I'm sorry. I'm just tired and weak, and I'm gonna get my power juice on here. Shake, 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 shake. Alright, so this first video is just gonna be kind of an introduction of me, my dogs, and then kind of why the channel is called what it is. So this cool drink gives me 20 milliequivalents of potassium in one serving. I make them myself now. I've spent hours of research on how to do it and finally decided to make my own because buying them from the pharmacy is very expensive after a while, and especially how often I have to take them. So if I keep buying them from the pharmacy, I'm spending about $20 to $40 for 30 packs, which for me can be anywhere from 10 to 15 days, if that. And it just kind of racks up over time because it's just, it gets worse and worse and I take more and more. And these cost about, I want to say, less than $40 for like over 100 packs or something like that. So I get exponentially more packs for the same price. So I do it that way. It saves me a lot of money on medication that I do need. So Cora is my service dog. She is training. She's only about 18 months old still, give or take. I haven't done the math in a while. But she's kind of, we're taking her training very slowly just because lately I've been going through a lot of life changes and things going on in my life, and I've been really sick lately, and it's just been one of those things that's been kind of hard for us to get out and do, but we've been trying to do as much training at home as possible, and we still do like public training when I go to my friends' houses and stuff. I work on her being calm around them and healing and all that kind of stuff. It just happens to be more in a safe area for me because I can't really go alone. Good job, Cora. Can't really go alone and hope that I don't get into any trouble on my own. So, because she's not quite fully trained yet and I don't really want to put my life at risk just going to the store. Though I do still go to the store alone, it's a much quicker trip when I know I can get in and out shortly. And if I have to sit in my car for a while, I can. I guess now would probably be a good time to kind of explain what I have going on. And then I can explain more about like what Cora does to help me with that. So I have something called hypokalemic periodic paralysis. It is a genetic disorder. It's a channelopathy. I can't pronounce tonight at all. My tongue doesn't want to work. Basically, it means that the potassium channels, my electrolyte channels, really are all screwed up. That includes sodium, calcium, magnesium, and of course potassium. But the one that's worse off is just the way my potassium is transferred in and out of my muscles. So normally your muscles get potassium into them when they're needing to relax a little bit, and it helps your muscles to relax after a contraction. For me, basically, there's a lot of different reasons why potassium can get transferred into my muscle cells before or when it's not really meant to, and it kind of overdoes it. And so instead of just relaxing my muscle after a contraction, I actually go completely paralyzed. So a lot of the times it's just my legs. I've had full from head to toe, including breathing difficulties, swallowing difficulties, inability to speak, inability to open my eyes, and it can also affect my heart. So really, you would never believe exactly how much potassium does for you until you have something where you can't control where your potassium goes and when. Like for me, it causes high heart rates. My heart rate is around 90 to 100 on a daily basis, just normally. When I'm up and moving around, it's always around like 120-ish. It's just something I have to deal with. I don't know exactly how to fix it at this point. I've gone to cardiologists, and we're still trying to figure out if there's something that we can do other than just supplementing potassium. And if you can't tell, I'm very out of breath right now. And I'm not exactly sure why, so. One thing that my hypokalemic periodic paralysis causes is obviously the paralysis, because potassium moves into my cells too quickly. It also causes certain mental issues such as brain fog, confusion, delirium, psychosis, pretty much anything. It also makes my already there anxiety much worse. Like I pretty much am in like a constant state of high anxiety for I don't even know how long it's been. And also because of my hypokalemic periodic paralysis, I can't take many anti-anxiety medications just because they make my symptoms worse for the periodic paralysis. So they help with the anxiety, but they make the periodic paralysis actually worse. So it affects my brain, it affects my muscles, it can affect my gastrointestinal tract, and we're still also trying to figure out exactly what the effects on mine are, because I have very bad GI issues, and I've had multiple doctors take a look at it, and they can't figure out exactly what's causing everything to do what it does, because it just basically has a mind of its own. We're still working on figuring out exactly what's going on there. And a main thing is that when I have my attacks, I don't know if I'm going too low or too high at this point. I know it's called hypokalemic periodic paralysis, but that's just because that's that's usually what happens is I go hypokalemic. But my family has a rare version where you can kind of go anywhere on the list there, as well as it has much more complications having to do with your muscles. So when I have attacks, my muscles break down when I can have all sorts of different attacks. Sometimes it can be paralysis, which I've had 2 where my legs have gone completely paralyzed in the last couple weeks. I almost daily get weakness, whether it be in my arms or my legs. Usually by the end of the day, I get really dizzy and I can hardly stand up straight, and it makes it really hard when I'm at work, because I work a full-time job. It makes it really hard when I'm at work to actually get through to the end of my day, because by the end of my day, like, my legs are all pretty much jelly, and I'm just trying really hard not to run into walls, and it's pretty bad. Like, I feel like I'm drunk by the end of my shift, and it's not a good thing. But so far I've been able to kind of make it through and make it look like I'm just tired, but I'm surprised that people haven't kind of caught on. So it causes GI issues, it causes heart issues, it causes brain issues, it causes muscle issues. It causes all sorts of different attacks. It causes learning disabilities. I mean, it literally causes a lot of different things, because without your body properly using potassium, things go amiss pretty badly. I've never really been hospitalized because I've really tried hard to keep everything under control, but I've gotten to dangerously low levels from just not being able to eat or digest my food. There are times when my digestive tract just stops completely and everything I eat comes right back up. Very much like gastroparesis, but I haven't been able to get tested for that. But my cousin has and does have gastroparesis, and she also has hypokalemic periodic paralysis. So I guess I can talk a little bit about how I got diagnosed with such a rare disorder that very few people know about. So I was lucky enough to actually know my doctor personally. He has known me since I was in elementary school, so he's known me for a long time, knows I'm not really one to complain about much. And so when I came in having complaints about things like the intense pains that I was getting, and the weakness, and the dizziness, and the nausea, and the fatigue that I was getting, he could tell that something was definitely up. Went away. But basically my older brother and my dad have positive genetics for this specific disorder, and myself, my little brother, and my little sister never got tested, so we're kind of up in the air on whether or not we have it. My dad doesn't have symptoms. Well, he does, but very, 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 very mild symptoms, and mostly it's like he falls asleep whenever he drinks milk. My older brother, he has very mild symptoms also. His more mimic ADHD, kind of almost ASD. He just kind of has like mental and learning disabilities, but they're not very drastic, but he still has some issue with that. So that's my brother's symptoms and my dad's symptoms. And my symptoms, I got lucky to get everything. Literally, I got the GI system stuff, I got the heart stuff, I got the lung stuff, I got the body disformation type stuff, and I got the obviously full paralysis. And so when I went to my doctor, I explained all the symptoms I was having. He checked pretty much every check off the list, and he's like, wow. And I hadn't even gone through the list. I just brought it in there saying, like, look, this is what's going on, this is what we have on information on my family disorder. And he actually went through and checked off everything as I was saying it, and he was like, oh, you have this, okay, check, and he was checking off all the different symptoms that were on this list. And I didn't realize that I literally had pretty much everything on that list. He's like, the only thing that you're missing is the paralysis. He's like, and honestly, I don't want to diagnose you with this until you have that. And so anyways, I ended up leaving, and we had discussed about going to all these different doctors. I had like 4 or 5 different appointments set up with different people to kind of figure out, get down to the bottom of it, if it wasn't the family disorder that we had thought it was. Anyways, before I even got through the list of doctors I had to see next, I ended up having a full body paralysis attack. I had gone shopping, had come home, had started feeling really funny, like really funny. My jaw started getting weak and kind of painful. I felt like I was going to throw up. I was really dizzy. I was really weak and shaky, kind of like I just like all of a sudden come over with the flu. And so I was like, I just need to curl into bed real quick and, you know, lay down for a second. And the second that I laid down, I didn't fall asleep, but all of a sudden I couldn't move. My eyes were open, my breathing was fine, I couldn't talk, I couldn't move, I couldn't lift my arm, I couldn't wiggle my toes, couldn't turn my head. I physically could not move, and I was shocked. I thought it wasn't like a real thing. I thought I was just kind of, it was all in my head. I was like, oh, we were just talking about this, maybe it just kind of is like my mind doing something funny. But no, I couldn't move, and then all of a sudden, about 45 to an hour minute, hour minutes, 45 minutes to about an hour later, I started to be able to wiggle my toes again. I could wiggle my fingers, and so I just kind of started working with that, and so I wiggled my toes and wiggled my fingers and started kind of trying to move my hands and tried to get my body movement back, and it took a little bit longer, but eventually I was able to turn over, and I was awake the whole time. I thought that I was going to fall asleep and take a little nap, and I never did, because I was just so freaked out at the fact that my body all of a sudden wasn't moving. And back at that first attack, I don't think I had pain. But now when I have my attacks, because of my muscles being unable to move out of the position that they got left in, sometimes they get really crampy. And so I start getting like this really bad cramping muscle pain throughout my body, like when you don't move for a long time after working out and your muscles just start cramping on you. It's kind of like that. So my muscles just would start cramping, and it just gets to this point where I just want to cry. It hurts so bad, and I can't move to relieve the pressure or the pain. So that, I guess, goes back to what Cora does, and one of the things Cora does is deep pressure therapy, where she lays on my muscles, which causes them to have those pressure points hit that are causing the pain, and it also causes them to like relax on and off, so they're not cramped because they're just constantly in a bad state per se. So that's one thing that she does to kind of help that a lot. And I never thought I would use DPT as much as I do, and I use it every day. Like when I go to sleep at night, when I wake up in the morning, both times I have to have deep pressure therapy just to get out of bed. I just wake up and go to sleep in so much pain. And people don't realize it, because I try really hard not to tell anybody or make it seem like I'm dealing with a lot. I mean, everybody pretty much has pain, and I know that, and so I just kind of deal with it, and I know that it's just a part of my life now. It's just muscle pain. It's not anything drastic. At first I thought I was dying, because I would get really sharp sudden pains, and it felt like it was like in my liver, kidney, or spleen or something, and now I just realize it's just my body's muscles spasming and having other issues. So I mean, I guess that's a long explanation. I'm not really good with short ones right now. My brain is not wanting to function. But let's get to the Possum Squad thing. So why did I go with the Possum Squad? Well, for my disorder, the mascot that they made for it, I don't even know who decided this, but they use a possum. And that's because one of the triggers for the paralysis attacks can be fear and or stress. And so opossums, when they are afraid or when they get stressed out, they pretend to be dead and they go paralyzed by fear. And they fake being dead, and they just lay there. So that is pretty much like me. Except for that, for me, my biggest trigger is carbs or a big diet or a big meal, which for me, a big meal basically means anything more than like a fist or fist and a half full of food. That is a big meal for me, and will actually cause me to get really dizzy and sick right after. And I've almost caused myself to go into attacks just from having like 8 ounces of food at a time. So that's kind of a little crazy. But obviously I'm struggling today, which maybe it's good that you guys get to see the fun side. But yeah, so that's why I use the Possum Squad, because these are my dogs. They help me, both of them help me with my periodic paralysis. Diesel also does DPT, and he's actually a little bit more responsive on it sometimes because he's very obedient. And Cora still kind of has like this teenager mind where she just wants to do her own thing sometimes. But the second that I get Diesel to do DPT, then here comes Cora to do DPT, and sometimes it's even nice to have both of them at the same time doing DPT. Because I can have one on my feet and ankles, and one up on my legs, or one up on my back, and one down on my legs, and it can just kind of like, that way I have like the full body coverage, which is nice. Right now they're both sleeping behind me. So basically all of Cora's tests have something to do with my disorder. She gets my meds for me, which is helpful if I'm like on the couch and I can't move my legs or I'm getting really weak and I can't make it to my room, so she can come get my meds for me. It's also hard for me to bend over and do a lot of movement. Like a lot of movement pretty much just sucks all the time. But the thing is that she's never going to go to work with me. I actually work a very tough job, and the reason I do is because I just love helping people. It's kind of like a catch-22. Like, I love my job so much, but I hate it at the same time because it's very hard on me. But I just love it too much to stop. The Cora will never come to work with me. It's much too dangerous for her to be there. But once she actually gets trained on alerting to my attacks, which is what I'm hoping with this new potassium reader that she's going to be able to do. And I'm going to put a link down below to like, I'm going to figure out how to do the PayPal direct thing and put a link down below so that you guys can help me out by giving me some money for my birthday so I can get myself the potassium reader I need. That's the only thing I'm buying for myself for my birthday this year is, you want this, huh? The potassium reader that I need for my birthday. And the potassium reader is the only reader on the market, and people in my periodic paralysis group that I'm a part of have used it and have had really great results with it. A lot of them have been able to diminish attacks by using it and knowing exactly what kind of attacks they're having. Each way that you treat the attack is totally different versus like if I'm low I have to supplement with potassium. If I'm high I have to supplement with sugar. Like it's complicated. And so like once I have that machine it's going to make it so much different. And if I'm normal, then I should either, it's a little bit different, like I don't supplement with as much potassium, but I still supplement with some. Because if I supplement with too much, I can end up hitting the other spectrum and that doesn't help either. So that's kind of why I need the potassium reader, is it's going to help me tremendously on that part, and then it also will help me so I can actually train Cora to scent alert to when my potassium levels are dropping. I already know that there's a change in body pH when that happens, and she has detected some, but it's still hard for her to detect all of them, and it's hard for me to shape it without knowing whether or not she's alerting to my heart rate, whether or not she's alerting to literally anything else, because she can alert to my heart rate, my breathing, which she does a lot, and my dizziness, which she does a lot, and my actual attacks. Just today, I stood up, and she knew I shouldn't be standing. She knew I was about to fall over. And so in order to make sure I didn't fall the wrong way, she jumped up on me and pushed me back onto the couch. And I got contacted by all sorts of shelters that were like, we'll walk you through and help you find a year-old dog or a 2-year-old dog that's already ready for you and all this other stuff. And I had never had really started with a dog from puppyhood. The closest I've gotten was about 6 months. Like the dog was 6 months old when I got it, and I started training at that point. All the other dogs I've trained and worked with have been older. The last time I had a puppy was back when I had my Chiweenie in high school, and I couldn't keep it because my sister decided that it was a kicking bag. So I decided I needed much bigger dogs this time around. And so I got Cora and Diesel. And I knew I wanted to get a dog that was young enough I could still work with. So I pretty much shut down all the shelters. I wasn't looking for a shelter dog that didn't have a background that I knew of. You know, it's too much of a gamble for me. Like, it might have had, like, great disposition when I went in, but who would have known if, like, something would have happened out in public that would have caused something to flash back in their memory, and then all of a sudden I had to wash my dog instantly because all of a sudden something in public reminded them of something that happened before I even knew them. So I wanted a dog with at least mostly a fresh slate. So I got Cora. And Cora was someone's accidental litter from their purebred American Staffordshire Terrier and their designer breed American Staffordshire Terrier mixed with a Rottweiler. And the one that was mixed with a Rottweiler was huge. Like, oh my gosh, was she big. The Amstaff, the dad, was actually a lot smaller, and Cora, I feel like, takes more after the Amstaff, while Diesel takes off more after the Rottweiler. So they came from a lovely lady. I got Cora first when she was 12 weeks, about 12 weeks old, maybe a little bit sooner. I think it was like 11 weeks old. She didn't have any shots. She was covered in fleas. She was a little malnourished, and she was kind of bitten by her siblings. And so I took her, I nursed her back to health. I got her on a better food. I got her on flea medications and gave her shots. And now she's a great dog. And the lady saw how well I did with Cora, and she decided that the other dog that she had, the other docile male that she had at home, that she hadn't been able to get rid of yet, would be a very good addition to our home. So we ended up with Diesel, and he was free. I paid money for Cora, but Diesel was free. And so really I got both dogs for a pretty decent price. But Diesel came to us without shots, same thing, flea bitten, on terrible food with skin issues. So got him off the terrible food, got rid of all the fleas again, got him healthy. He was actually overweight when we got him. He was a little tubber. And scared of everything because he wasn't socialized and had been living in a pen, an indoor pen with his mom and dad and the other 2 dogs I think they had. So it wasn't a good situation. But they're both great dogs. They're probably the 2 most easily trained, docile of their breed that I've ever met. I mean, they're both great. I couldn't have asked for 2 better dogs, honestly. I've never met a boy dog that was as docile as Diesel. Diesel, come here, buddy. Come on. Up. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. I know you don't want to. You were sleeping. This is my boy. And this is my girl. Yeah, I know. I'm a good girl, huh? So I guess if I'm always willing to answer questions about my disability. I'm always willing to answer questions about like what I've gone through, what kind of things I go through on a daily basis. And I know I kind of tried to explain a lot of it, but I'm sure a lot of it was really confusing. And sorry if I burp a lot. It's something. It's just something I've always done. I burp constantly. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. So just kind of a recap. I have what's called hypokalemic periodic paralysis. It's very rare, genetic condition, channelopathy. Cora is going to be my psychiatrics. I have mental breakdowns. Medical alert because of the alerting to the actual attacks. 3, I've had some issues with seeing certain areas. You'll notice I don't really stare at the camera very well. That's something I deal with a lot, is I don't see very well. So she's also going to, once she gets a little bigger, we're going to work on guided mobility as long as she gets cleared. I've pretty much waited on holding off on a lot of the teaching until she gets cleared because she still thinks it's okay to pull me like a really strong puppy that she is. And I'd rather her not get too harmed in just training her how to do certain things. I'd rather her be tested first. So she's probably going to be in training for a while longer just so that she can get tested before I really get her into those 2 things, training-wise. We also want to do agility, because I think that Cora would do really well with that, and there's also a possibility of scent training and stuff for her higher prey drive, which is the American Staffordshire Terrier in her. You know, terriers, they just want to eat everything. But she's been doing really well with her prey drive in public, and she knows when it's time to work that it's time to work. So that's good. But yeah, leave us questions, or if you have any comments, or if you know somebody that has HKPP. I mean, it's pretty rare. It's kind of cool to hear about people who know somebody else who has something like it. And just so you know, this is not hypokalemia. That is when you go into the hospital and you have acute hypokalemia, or you have kidney issues where you have hypokalemia. Those are different and managed differently. My potassium levels are usually fine. It just is a sudden shift in my potassium that can happen in the blink of an eye that causes an immediate attack. That's the scary part.